Final Boy Status is a podcast about scary movies and the stuff that happens in them. The entire horror genre is generally frightening and disturbing, so if you're a kid, be sure to ask your parents if it's okay for you to listen. Or don't. You'd probably be cooler if you didn't ask for their permission. But then again, I won't tell you how to live your life. Also, we will be discussing spoilers during this podcast, so don't say we didn't warn you.
Alright, all you gals and ghouls, it is Lance and Lappin. I'm hosting another episode of Final Boy Status. As always, I am joined by El Señor Hueso, Adam Bone.
It's me.
And Spooky Lukey Luke Haueter. And we have...
According to the intro, I am a ghoul.
Yes.
Am I the gal?
Hey.
I hope so.
I mean,
Just
you
you
do
and
you,
me.
man.
Process of elimination. I gotta be
It's
the
you
gal.
and me,
I'll
Christina
take one.
Ricci and Casper. That's you and me.
Ooh,
I
a
don't
love
hate that.
story. Yeah, it's great. I know, right?
I love that movie.
It's a good pairing. It's a good pairing. So anyway, we have a very special Halloween bonus episode for you guys.
Oh yeah.
bonus.
Ready for the remix?
Somebody on the internet remixed that.
Do it. Frickin' do it. But yes, we just got done watching the great movie Clue, 1985 classic.
Yeah, dude.
So usually on Final Boy Status, kind of what we do is we like to talk about horror movies as well as just spooky movies in general. We talk about their survivability. We talk about, some of the decisions made by some of the characters in the movie, as well as sometimes there's a killer. We talk about them, profile them a little bit, and in the end, we're trying to see if we could make it to the end of the movie and see how survivable it is.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's the case. Because everybody watches a spooky movie, any spooky movie that has deaths in it, and they go, I wonder if I could get out of this.
Right.
We're in the same boat, brother. We're going to figure it out. We're going to go through methodically and carefully and figure out if your average Joe could survive this situation.
And we've said this a lot, but we are the average of average Joes. And so if we can or can't survive it, chances are most people would agree, Not that we agree with each other a lot of the time, but I'm just saying, no special skills that'll save us in this group.
The only thing we agree on unanimously is that we're average Joes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely not Globo Jim, that's for sure. Let's jump into the movie a little bit. Let's kind of introduce it. Let's usually we like to talk a little bit about the background as well as the premise of the story and give a little bit of trivia. So Luke, what would you have to say about as far as the general background and trivia of this movie?
Well, let me tell you, you've already mentioned that this fine film was released in 1985. It was directed by Jonathan Lynn, actually his directorial debut. In terms of writing, really the only credited writer is Jonathan Lynn, but there were a lot of people who had their hands on this. So for instance, the original writer, guy who was sort of heading up the movie at first, was John Landis, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so as in the Kentucky Fried Movie, Animal House, and then An American Werewolf in London, Trading Places. Just a legendary filmmaker. Guy has a heck of a filmography.
For sure.
So he developed the screenplay for quite a while. He was even the one who came up with the concept of having multiple endings. He later said in an interview that the playwright Tom Stoppard worked on a draft of the script, Stephen Sondheim worked on a draft of the script, and Anthony Perkins also contributed to the script before ultimately John Landis handed it over to Jonathan Lynn, who finished the script. So somehow you had a whole bunch of fingers in this pie, but only one man came out with a credit, and that was Jonathan Lynn. We want to talk about, this cast, our principal cast in this movie is stacked. It was one of those, I was like, all right, I have to figure out which names are worth writing down. There aren't really names to skip.
Yeah.
Kind of have to write all of them.
Character is big name.
Yeah, it was just a legendary cast. All of them coming from really rich comedic backgrounds, and honestly, it's just perfect for this movie for how funny it is.
Yeah.
So, of course, this movie stars the legendary Tim Curry, Eileen Brennan, Madeline Kahn, Christopher Lloyd, Michael McKean, Martin Mull, and Leslie Ann Warren. That is our primary cast. That's really just, and like I said, it's the entire cast. That's basically everybody in it except for Yvette, Mr. Body, and the cook.
Yes.
All right.
And of course, this was filmed on a budget of $15 million. Now, in '85 money, that's a fair amount of dough, but still kind of on the cheaper end of the spectrum for movies back in the day. But it made good. It made good on that money. Oh, and I should really mention, people will get mad at me if I don't mention it. This is, of course, based off of the famous game Clue.
What?
The board game.
I thought the board game was based off the movie.
Yes. Of course, so they get the conceit of the movie basically from the game. Each of the characters is named after the characters in the game, and the point of the movie is they're trying to figure out who committed the murder, in what room, and with what weapon. Wadsworth, the character played by Tim Curry, even says as much in the movie. In terms of some trivia and some other background, there's really only a couple things I want to mention, because I want to dedicate as much time as we can to discussing the movie and just having fun with it. So what I will tell you is that this movie was actually filmed on sound stages at Paramount Pictures. There isn't really a movie that was filmed. There isn't really a mansion where they filmed. Okay. It was all built on sound stages. Set design is credited to several names I can't pronounce, but what is fascinating is to make the interior sets authentically decorated, they rented furnishings from private collectors. And among those private collectors was the estate of Theodore Roosevelt, meaning that the furniture in this movie was Theodore Roosevelt's furniture. Because this is actually a period piece.
Right.
Released in '85, takes place in, was it 35?
53.
54.
54. Wow.
Sorry, buddy.
Hey, it's all
close.
good. It's all good.
I can also tell you that in terms of casting, there are some pretty legendary actors who are nearly a part of this movie. For instance, Carrie Fisher was in contract to play Miss Scarlet, but had to withdraw because she was actually getting treatment for drug and alcohol addiction.
Oh, gotcha.
And then Jonathan Lynn's first choice for the role of Wadsworth was Leonard Rossiter, but he actually died before filming began. His second choice was Rowan Atkinson, but producers eventually convinced him to cast Tim Curry because they just didn't think Rowan Atkinson was well known enough. So that's one of those lists where it's like, this is one of those movies where you genuinely can't imagine anyone else playing the part. So like anybody else playing Wadsworth seems kind of weird and kind of wrong, but then you hear the names Leonard Rossiter and Rowan Atkinson and you're like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
that
I'll
might have
allow
worked.
it. Yeah, I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher too. Like, I'd
Yeah,
like to
exactly.
see that movie, honestly.
For sure.
It's crazy. It's crazy to know that almost happened. So one thing I did want to make note of, just to confirm what everybody already suspected, that Mrs. White's famous Flames speech was improvised by Madeline Kahn in the moment. She seemed to have a couple of improvised moments. For instance, there's a moment where Mr. Green unexpectedly kind of yells something at her, and she sort of half screams.
Right.
Yeah.
That seemed to be improvised as well. So she had some killer moments in this movie. Now let's talk about one of the most shocking things I can tell you. So this movie is famous for having 3 endings, but what you may not know is that they wrote and filmed 4 endings.
Oh, for real? Wow.
For real. Jonathan Lynn ended up removing the 4th ending from the theatrical release because he decided it just wasn't good enough compared to the other endings and the rest of the movie. So in the unused 4th ending, Wadsworth admits that he committed all of the murders. He was motivated by a desire for perfection. Having failed to be either the perfect husband or the perfect butler, he decided he would be the perfect murderer. So Wadsworth reports that he poisoned the champagne and the guests would die, leaving no witnesses. But the police and the FBI arrive, and Wadsworth is arrested. He breaks free and steals a police car, but his escape is thwarted when 3 police dogs lunge at him from the back seat, bringing full circle the moment at the beginning of the movie where he's scared of the dogs outside.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It kind of sounds cool. Like, I don't know.
Well, and it's interesting, too, when you look in comparison to the other 2 endings. That's 2 endings where Wadsworth is the hero of the story and 2 endings where Wadsworth is a villain of the story.
Yeah.
And I think one of the coolest parts about the movie, besides the idea of a multiple ending, is that the filmmakers picked an ending to be the real ending.
Yeah.
Right.
Most filmmakers would leave some ambiguity of like, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. But the filmmakers come right out and say, no, in the real ending, they all do it except for Mr. Green. Well, although he, of course, does end up killing Wadsworth / Mr. Body.
Yeah.
Spoilers. But but of course, like we have to mention the multiple endings thing, which was a brilliant move, especially at the time. Nobody would have seen this coming. And they didn't really talk about it much in the press leading up to the movie. It only really came out after. So everybody was really surprised when everybody went to see, when you talk to all the people in your neighborhood who were seeing the movie and nobody's seen the same ending. They're all kind of losing their minds about this, and then they come out and say, well, the movie has multiple endings, and then they actually printed in newspapers which showing at which theater would be showing which ending, encouraging people to go back and see each ending for themselves.
Oh, wow.
So in the newspaper, they're spoiling it for each of the endings then?
No, each ending was assigned a letter. It was A, B, or C.
Oh, A ending, B ending, gotcha.
And I guess, like, somehow the film you saw would tell you this is A, B, or C. So if you saw ending A, then later you would look for a showing B or C, and you'd go see one of those.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
So no spoilers involved there.
The one where the butler did it.
Hey.
Pretty, yeah, but I mean, pretty mind-blowing for the time. Obviously nowadays we have stuff like Bandersnatch from Black Mirror, where literally there's like so many different combinations you can figure out. But back in the day, like, that was a really groundbreaking move and really paid off because they got people to see it over and over again.
Yeah.
Made back its money and then some. Because we haven't even talked about, like, home video release where it's made millions.
I bet. Yeah.
Just a legendary movie.
For sure.
Oh, I will say, if any of you or if any listeners or anybody here in the studio is wondering where each ending picks up, so the movie is the same until Wadsworth turns off the lights as part of his explanation.
That's the turning point.
And they all talk in the dark for a second, and then each ending picks up when he turns the light back on. So if anybody's confused, that's the cutoff point. So everything that happens before then is canon with each ending, but then each ending is its own thing.
Alrighty, guys. So let's talk about our just opinions of the movie. Usually, with movies, we like to give a spooky rating as well as a rating based on just what our general opinion is. So let's start with the spooky rating out of 13.
May I suggest something unorthodox?
Sure.
Right. I say we give it a spooky rating out of 13, a funny rating out of 13.
Oh, okay.
And a general rating out of 13.
I like that.
Let's do that. Okay.
Because honestly, I was going to say, like, it's not scary and it's not
it's not
supposed
meant
to be scary.
Yeah.
You can't really hold it against it.
Jeez, I don't know what movie you guys were watching. I was terrified the entire time. I couldn't stop holding Adam's hand.
Yeah, scariness, I'd say there wasn't a single moment, but again, it's not what it's about. I think humor-wise, there's some good laughs. There's some really good laughs. It's hard that we haven't done a funny one for me to really establish a scale, of comparison out of 13. But if 13's the funniest movie I've ever seen, I guess, I think it's pretty solid. I don't think it's not even close to the funniest movie I've ever seen, but I think for what it is, and the writing is, I want to say, very excellent. I mean, general opinions talking here, like, I think that's what holds the movie. If it wasn't for the clever writing and the back and forths and the character moments with each other and the interactions, it wouldn't have been very good at all. But like, because of those, I feel like that's what really got me. The humor's in the writing. I want to say it was like a 8.5.
Oh my God, I thought you said 1 out of 13 for a second there, and I was like, Adam, what?
Broski.
1 out of 13.
Give it a 1 out of 13. Oh man, were you gonna give your rating of the movie as a whole, just spooky and comedy for now?
Let's do. So comedy is, what did I say, 8.5?
8.5.
Yep.
I almost forgot. I think generally, I know this is a beloved movie. It personally isn't just the best thing. You know, it's like it's funny at moments, but it's not the greatest thing ever. I mean, it's 85, and obviously, like Luke said, didn't have the biggest of budgets, but some of the camera things were a little bit janky. And I'm thinking out loud here. I want to say it wasn't just the best thing I've ever seen. So out of 13, I'm gonna also give it an 8.5 in quality. I'll go with both.
Nice.
There it is. Yeah, in terms of spookiness, hard to rate this movie.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 1 because there's one moment in the movie that even ever since I was a little kid has stuck with me, and I think has still had a profound effect on what I find scary, which is the scene where Yvette wanders into the billiard room in the dark and they're whispering back and forth. Still to this day, like just when I was a kid, that like imprinted on me in a funny way. And still to this day, I find that like uniquely interesting and terrifying. Obviously, it's been done better. It's no, what's thou like to live deliciously? But it's still kind of an eerie moment in the film, and then it's kind of met with a little bit of a jump scare when the rope goes around Yvette's neck. So I'm going to give it a 1 for that because I can't do this podcast and not mention how much that moment affected me as a child. Because Clue was like, I mean, it's like the darkest thing I'd seen as a kid, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's probably like something in the movie that I was like, whoa. I'll give it a 1 for spookiness because just that
Give
moment
it
in
to it,
particular
yeah.
kind of imprinted on me. In terms of humor, man, like this movie kills it. It is very, very funny. For me, the only jokes that don't work now are more a product of the modern times. There's a few jokes about Mr. Green being gay
Yeah.
that are very much like
Yeah.
very old-fashioned minded.
Yeah.
And granted,
Don't quite
some of
land.
them kind of land in the context of a period piece. Like after Mr. Green says it and sits down and then Professor Plum like moves away from him.
Yeah.
Like he's like contagious or something. That still kind of works.
Some
not
is
as like
self-aware, maybe.
yeah, it's kind of like a self-aware thing of like, oh man, back in 1954, whenever this movie's set, I've already forgotten. Like, there was sort of that weird thing there. So that joke still kind of made sense. It still is a little bit like, oh man, like sucks that him being gay is like the butt of some jokes in this.
Yeah.
But also like it works really well in other scenes, like where Yvette's like, I need someone to go with me. And all the guys are like, yeah. And Mr. Green's like, well, no, thanks.
That was a pretty... I left, yeah.
So there's a couple
good.
moments where, like, they play the jokes actually really well. But yeah, so there's a couple jokes that just feel outdated, and really that's all just revolving around, like, homosexuality and then being weird about it because it was the 80s. But also it's a period piece, so everybody in 1950 whatever would be weird about it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know that there's a joke in this movie that doesn't land. At least for me, which is really impressive. Like, obviously, humor is subjective. Not everybody has to agree with me. Not everybody has to think that every joke, like, lands. But I mean, everything. There's physical gags in the movie that I think are spot on. Even just, like, subtle stuff. The written jokes are great. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 9 out of 13 for humor. Movie as a whole, like it's a movie from my childhood. I'm definitely looking through rose-colored glasses on this, but also calling out like how interesting it was for the time. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 10 out of 13 just for being really innovative, doing a lot with a small budget. I mean, and just pitch perfect acting from everybody. There's not a single acting moment in this movie that's a no from me. Every single acting moment hits. So that's what I say.
Yeah, so my rating out of 13 for spookiness, I'm going to give it a 2. Shock the world.
He's the scaredest one out of the three.
I was so frightened. Again, I was clutching Adam's hand. It was in a sweaty fist, but I was clutching it anyway. But yeah, I think for me, I guess I'm just remembering it as a kid. And yeah, there were just moments like, I guess whenever they go down like a secret passageway or like the whole tension of like who did it and like what was going on for me kind of did it for me to get it to a 2. As far as comedy, I think I would give it an 8.5 to be honest with you. Because I mean, solid. Yeah, it definitely, every time that I watch it is funny and I do chuckle. But I mean, not that this is a bad thing, because obviously the filmmakers weren't trying to make a complete. I mean, like it's a movie for families, so some of the comedy is goofy and physical, and that is what it is. But it's charming in a way, which I appreciate. A lot of the strength, I think, really comes from the writing as well as the ensemble cast. There's not a weak link in this movie as far as performances, in my opinion. So I would give this I'll give it a 9, in my honest opinion, is what I would say. So yeah, we talked about it a little bit. Do we kind of want to examine, I mean, there are 3 endings, but do we want to kind of examine the killers that are from the real ending, or do we want to kind of examine all 3?
Because, I mean, the deaths are the same.
The deaths are the
throughout,
same,
right?
yep.
You know,
It's the same
murder
victims.
weapons, the deaths. So I feel like with each killer, the capacity is pretty much the same. I mean, there's no, obviously, a movie with no supernatural elements. They're all people with the same 6 murder weapons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we should go through it. That sounds.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I think we can assess the deaths in the same way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the cook getting stabbed in the back, can't avoid that.
Yeah.
And at that point, hard to know that anything's going down, really, I guess.
Yeah, it's true.
And when we talk about the killer and like, I mean, because again, it was weird with the multiple endings, but we'll just like kind of lump it into one thing. The killer has access to the secret passageways that not everyone knows about, and the killer has access to the weapons and the key. But also, they're very limited by the fact that they are among the other people and have to work in those 30 seconds between times that they have to So.
Yeah.
I guess when we're talking about the killer, just overall to lump everyone into it, I think there are definitely limitations. There's definitely things that are hard to avoid, obstacles that are a little bit tougher to overcome, like the secret passageways and stuff. But
Yeah.
at the same time, the killer kind of has their hands tied, whoever they are at the time.
No matter what ending you watch,
Yeah.
only if you're involved in actually blackmailing someone are you killed.
Yeah.
So that's something that kind of has to be factored into
Sure.
survival, is whether or not you're in on the blackmail scheme. Because if you're not in on it, you're not really even a target.
Yeah, you're
No,
just kind
you're
of
just
there for the
there.
shenanigans.
So the cook.
the cook.
Yeah, the first death, that's what we were.
Yes, the cook is stabbed in the back while Mrs. Peacock is in hysterics. They take that opportunity to kill the cook, and they can't hear the screams of the cook because Mrs. Peacock is going all crazy. Getting stabbed in the back.
I mean, yeah, that death is pretty unavoidable if you're the cook. Everybody gets in the house. Yep, totally believable.
Mm-hmm.
They're all locked in the house. Yep, totally believable. Once crap hits the fan and people start getting murdered, makes sense that nobody wants to leave because
Yeah.
everybody else will just say
Blame
that
them.
they did.
Blame them, yeah.
Blame them.
So I think one of this movie's strong points is every step along that way, it's believable.
That's kind of a strength and a weakness for the killers, is they have the benefit of everybody being in close quarters to be able to get stuff done in a limited space, but it also makes it harder to get away with the murder. So
Sure.
it's almost like a
You gotta get
double-edged
away from the
sword.
group. Yeah.
So I was just sort of thinking in terms of the only way the cook could have avoided her death is if she just straight up didn't show up.
Yeah.
But everybody had such a strong reason to show up that, yeah, of course she showed up.
yeah.
If somebody wants to kill you and you're blackmailing them, yeah,
They gonna find you.
Yeah.
They gonna get you.
no matter which ending we're talking about, whether it's Miss Peacock, whether it's Miss Scarlet, or whether it's a combination of everybody, yeah, Mr. Body ends up dead. Because in the version where everybody is the killer, everybody's willing to kill, therefore,
Everyone has a motive to kill.
yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone is. I see what you're saying.
Everybody has motive, everybody has means.
Everyone has blood on their hand at some point. In
Right.
that one.
So I'm going to go ahead and say you're stuck in the house and you're Mr. Body. Yeah, you're done.
There's nothing you could do.
You got a pretty big target on your back, so that's not gonna work in your favor.
So third is that the random
motorist?
guy?
Motorist,
Yeah.
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 Guy knocks on the
That
door.
comes up.
That's
Gets, pelted over the head with the wrench.
that's sort of an interesting one because they reveal towards the end that he was one of Mr. Body's informants in his
Right.
network of blackmail. I'm curious why he acts like he doesn't have any context of what's going on.
Yeah.
He's just oh, my car broke
It
down.
seems like it's an accident.
Yeah, but it's revealed later that he's there on purpose. He was invited.
Yeah.
and he would know the people there to a
Sure.
certain extent because he's involved in the network.
I guess maybe he lied about that because he thought it would help, like sort of make him safe in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess if you showed up and you're like, and you sense that something's off, something seems weird, and
Obviously, a situation with a lot of passions going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of what's the word? A lot of weight, a lot of motive, I guess. And they're all acting weird, and they lock him in a room. Like, I feel like he
Yeah.
should be freaking out a lot more than he did.
yeah, I don't know. His death is kind of unavoidable because he makes the mistake of showing up. His car is broken down.
Yeah.
I guess he could have gotten away if at the door he was just like, yeah, you know what? Like, it's okay. Like, I'll take care of it. I'll go.
Sure.
Because then, like, unless the person, like, tracks him down for some reason.
In the storm.
But at that point, unless it's the ending where everybody did it, the only way Miss Scarlet and Mrs. Peacock end up knowing about him is because they read the file, and they don't read the file until right before they kill him.
Yeah.
So at that point, if he just at the doorway goes, you know what, like, never mind, I'll figure something else out and
They don't
leaves,
even think twice
he could
about
get
it.
out.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I don't know, if you showed up and you're like, I don't know, the vibe's off.
Kind of seems sketchy.
There's a guy, there's a dude here who probably wants to kill me because I've been giving somebody information on
I've been
him.
a snitch.
Because I've been a snitch, yeah. So I don't. That's hard to say because really, yeah, he'd probably come in, and then once he's locked in the room, he literally can't get away.
Right?
I think the
Yeah.
decision has to be made at the door if he's getting away. I think if you're just in that house, it's hard to get away overall. But I think you're right. It's either that first reaction where you look through the door and you're like, never mind, I'm out of here, or it'll just happen.
Use your spidey senses.
Probably like 75% inevitable, 25%
Yeah.
avoidable.
If we're gonna put a
Yeah.
statistic to it.
If we had to draw a pie chart.
Well, the
Yes.
next three happen in pretty rapid.
Pretty close together, yeah.
So the exact order I think is Yvette,
Yvette
the
gets-
policeman, and then the singing telegram. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about the policeman next because he's the guy that shows up next.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's sort of out of the loop. Yvette's very much like aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about her more probably last. I think let's just get to her last out of these three
Sure. Yeah.
because she's like the most important role. She's actually like a character in the movie. So
Right.
So explain this to me. So the policeman was working for Miss Scarlet.
Miss Scarlet, yeah.
So he knew her.
sort of. He was a real policeman, but he took bribes from her to look the other way so she could run her business.
Right.
So not really working for her.
Well,
Well,
no,
in the Miss Scarlet
sense.
ending, he's working
Yeah.
for her.
yeah.
But
At
in
least
the other
taking money,
yeah,
Yeah.
in the other endings, he's just taking money.
taking
So
bribes. But he gets there and he pretends like he doesn't know her, right?
what's
'Cause-
even weirder is he's making the phone call during like the power outage scene, and he says something. I don't know. No, I must be making this up. I thought he said something that indicated he was a local policeman, but maybe not, because he says he's off duty,
I remember him saying he's off duty. I don't remember.
Yeah, and I
which makes sense later why an
Yeah.
off-duty cop would show up at their house investigating an abandoned car.
right.
I don't know. He very quickly seems to know that something's wrong.
Sure.
And that's fair. Like, I mean, I'm trying to get into his head and figure out what his motivation is. But if I'm just like going with like a local cop who runs into this house, it's obviously immediately suspicious.
Yeah.
And they cover it up surprisingly and humorously well. But honestly, even without that, if I was a cop, I would want to investigate that for shizzle, you know?
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, so we know the guy has come from Washington, D.C. He got a letter. He's involved. He's an informant for Mr. Body. He arrives. He sees a woman that he takes bribes from. He knows the vibe is off. They briefly convince him that everything's okay for a minute. But then he goes back in the library. They lock it again, and he's suspicious again. I don't know.
Yeah.
is he the one who gets the call from J. Edgar Hoover?
Yes,
Yeah.
he is.
He
And
is.
he's like super
It's like, whoa,
confused.
you guys got like a phone call from J. Edgar
talk
Hoover.
about being suspicious, you know?
Yeah, that would be.
That'd tip the scale a
I
little
mean,
bit.
that's the one of the leaders of the largest law enforcement agency in the country at that point. It's kind of like, that's pretty weird.
Which they explain away with one line initially, which is Wadsworth saying, J. Edgar Hoover's on everybody else's phones, why wouldn't he be on mine?
And it's like a joke, and they're like, ah!
And then they don't worry about it again until the end of the movie.
Right, yeah.
So,
you're like, whoa.
I don't know. His suspicion is valid, and I'm saying I don't know. That makes his death a little bit more unavoidable the more suspicious it is, because the more suspicious, the more likely he is to stay and investigate,
Curiosity killed the cat, or in this case, curiosity killed the cop.
I don't know if there's enough suspicion for him to feel like he's in danger. Like if there was suspicion that like he was going to die, then that would be a different story. But it's almost like, yeah, there's something fishy going here, and I want to figure it out. And then he gets killed. Like it's still, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough there to make his death unavoidable. I think he's too curious, and I think he just wants to get to the bottom of it. So I think if you're in his shoes, you're kind of hanging out there no matter what.
I think you're just dead.
Yeah. I guess the next death would be the Telegram singer.
Completely unavoidable. How do you avoid that?
She gets shot.
Again, maybe if you're Steven Seagal and you can catch the bullet with your butt cheeks.
You're working your job as a singing telegram. You go to the door. You ring the doorbell. Somebody opens the door and shoots you. The only way you'd avoid that is if you called in sick that day.
Yeah. Or if you're driving up to the house, you're like, no.
You know what?
No fetching way.
I ain't feeling it.
I guess Yvette is the last murder to go down. She is throttled with the rope.
I guess technically in that sequence, she's the first murder that happens, but she's the last one we're going to talk about.
That's a good way of putting it.
It's the death that holds the most weight because she's the character we know the best.
Right.
I think it sort of brings the whole story to a head of like, well, now that Yvette's dead, we have to know. Like, we have to figure this out.
Yeah. I think the line she says where it's like, it's you, the whodunit thing where they're like, I'm not going to say the name for the sake of the audience. It puts in your mind,
it also had to serve multiple endings, right?
Right.
Sure. Because in each ending, she's murdered by somebody different, I think.
But it takes away all ideas that it's just some random third party. You're like, oh, it is one of the people. Like, for sure, it's one of the people that we've been introduced to.
Oh, yeah.
She knows.
Yeah, in terms of her death being avoidable, that's hard to say. I don't know.
The story around her is kind of muddled for me. She was also an informant.
Yeah, she worked for Miss Scarlet.
She worked for Miss Scarlet and had contact with Mrs. Peacock's husband and Colonel Mustard. Contact I put in many quotation quotes.
They knew her in a biblical sense.
They knew her in a biblical sense. They made Shakespeare's beast in an uncomfortable position.
Yeah, we could say that a couple more ways. Let's keep going.
We're gonna keep it going.
Just keep riding that train for a while.
They had knitted a potato sack together.
That's my favorite so far.
I know. What do you say?
How do you top that?
I feel like Adam's just like sitting on a throne, like, dance for me, monkeys.
I don't have any, but I
make some more sexual references for me. I am a sex god myself. Adam is currently dressed as David Bowie in Labyrinth right now. He's the Goblin King, the sexiest Goblin King you ever done known. So yeah, we got to do what he says. We got to figure out some more references. They
they got their airline tray into its full upright position.
Yep. They definitely found a parabola together. They got pretty obtuse and sometimes acute, and also they got right. All right.
They made the angels cry.
With arms wide open. With
That's
mouths
right.
wide open.
They met each other with arms wide open.
Thanks, Creed. I'm satisfied, by the way. That was
Good.
enough to wet my whistle.
Wait, but which one was your favorite?
Who did it better? Okay, it was Luke because he named 5 and I did like 1 terribly. But
it was Luke. Alternate ending, it was Lanson.
In the ending where I kill Luke to satisfy Adam.
The real ending, it was all of them.
It's both.
It was everyone.
So yeah, her death. Also, I think just the fact that she's an informant, she's in the house with them, she's gonna die. You know,
there's no
after she fulfills her job
purpose.
Yeah. So she's in the same category as Mr. Body, where literally
Right.
everybody has
Motives
a
all
motive
around.
and a mean.
Yep. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I feel like that's most the deaths are just gonna happen.
If you're there, you're gonna die.
It's just part of the plan, and
Again, just being like one of the conspirators in like this blackmail thing
Yeah.
puts you on the list, and everybody on the list gets crossed off in the movie.
yeah.
So the only one who probably could have gotten out of it is, well, I guess the motorist was sort of 25% chance of getting out of it if he somehow detects that the vibe is off.
Check the vibe, man.
If that probably had a better chance. I'd probably give her a 50 or 60% chance of getting away if she had. Because basically, she was in a completely different room. They didn't even know she was listening in on them, I don't think.
Right.
So she could have overheard, like, even when Mr. Body's giving a speech about somebody killed Wadsworth, she could have heard all that and been like, oh, heck no, I'm out of here.
Yeah. I guess this would be the part where we talk about. I guess we've kind of talked about it, but like final boy, final girl status. But
Obviously, very elusive in this movie.
Yeah,
You can't
it's-
really pinpoint one and not one, because
yeah,
not everybody gets killed off.
it's true.
It's not
but-
Yeah, there's a lot of people left standing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially the fact that the category of people who die are the informants, and then
Sure.
the other people are just there. It's kind of hard to.
yeah.
But I guess you could still, I don't know. I guess with a lot of the movies we've done, we've just kind of given, just the given. Like, if one of us, given that we were an informant put in the house, could we survive? I guess we could say. I don't know.
If I was a snitch,
Yeah.
look, my mom
Already in the house, already a snitch.
I mean, me as I am now, I'm in the house and I'm a snitch. Like, I mean, so you guys just did Blair Witch without me, and then
Yeah.
I did
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
Next
yeah.
without you gentlemen.
Right.
Yes.
So I have You're Next fresh in my brain, and I don't know if you guys have seen that movie.
I have, yeah.
Never.
But that's all about being trapped in a house full of adversaries and just fighting your way out, basically.
They're all out for each other.
Mortal Kombat.
So I don't know, like as soon as I know somebody's a killer, as soon as somebody comes a little too up in my space, I'm gonna drop them.
Yep.
So like this is going. So like, present to you a scenario:
Yes.
Send it.
is that I'm an informant in this house. I feel like the vibe is off. As soon as I'm aware that there's any sort of death going on in the house, like if I'm like in Yvette's shoes where I know clearly that there's a murderer, as soon as anybody like crosses even a little bit of a threshold with me, I just beat them to death. I'm in that billiards room, I grab a pool cue, and I beat that guy to death.
Full straight up stomped like in Drive in the elevator.
Yeah, exactly. Just full squishy, disgusting, sloppy sounds.
In your French maid costume, no less.
in my French maid costume, which I as a man would be wearing.
Take this.
And like as awful as this sounds, I might even reach a point where I'm like if one or two of them attack me, I'm like, 2 down, 4 to go. Like screw it. I just kill all of them.
It's
time to go
climb
home.
ahead.
At some point, you'd have to imagine you just go feral.
Yeah.
So here's my proposed scenario. I kill each of them one by one, and in a real twist ending, I am the killer.
The whole time.
Not the whole time.
Alright.
You just are the killer by the end.
I just
There you go.
realized that the world makes no sense, and I go, you know what? Time to act like a feral hog and run through this backyard. You know what I'm saying?
The sudden surge of nihilism, Luke.
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
kills
that's like
everybody.
full. I mean, they drew
It's hardly
first,
family friendly, but they drew first blood. I'll
They-
draw last blood.
They drew first blood. He's got to go full Rambo. Little do they know, this little maid was a Green Beret and now he's getting ready. Well, I guess this is in '54, so it'd be before Nam. But he was in the special forces back in. He was killing Nazis. 55 confirmed kills. They think they think he's trapped in there with them. They're trapped in there with him.
So yeah, I'm gonna say I get final boy and final girl status
you just survive it
Hey.
because
you kill
I go on the
everybody.
offensive immediately
Well, hey.
and just brutally murder everybody.
Dude, there you go. And then it's like you got no informants, you got no blackmailed. So I mean, it's not like the government is gonna want it to come out. So maybe they look the other way. They're like, yeah, you did us a service.
Self-defense.
Self-defense. You killed a lot of Nazis.
I bring up that
you're
communism
good.
red herring, and they're like, "Wow, you really did us a favor."
they were communists. Oh, yeah, you definitely had to kill them. They definitely had to die. Better
Medal of
dead
honor
than
to this
red."
guy.
They like promote. I'm sorry, that totally
all
was
I
like
had
a
to
huge
do
spit
was-
take for me. Niagara Falls.
And all I had to do was turn the Colonel into a mustard stain.
Made a scarlet stain too, you know.
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
House, ghost house, toast ghost, road ghost, hush house.
What about you, Adam?
Yeah, what do you feel?
Final boy, final girl?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I was thinking, I think I'd survive, just for the same reason we made with the maid, where I think there will be a moment before I die, assuming I'm not the first one. I think, I don't know, there's a good chance I might die, but if I feel something suspicious, I feel like there's nothing. There's like a note, and I'm like there, and then I feel like I would be on the edge of my seat, and if the vibe is even a little bit weird, I'm out of there. So like,
There you go.
I don't know, I feel like I would escape the same way the maid could have escaped, by just like seeing something crazy, seeing someone almost die, hearing a loud noise even, and then just the spooky atmosphere, the wide shots, and the storm, I'm already getting, already have a bad feeling about it, I feel, and the dog, I don't know, everything just leads itself up to disaster. So I feel like I will already be more on the edge than the other victims were, and I'd get out of there at the first sign of danger.
By the way, like, final boy status in this movie, I guess, kind of more or less goes to Yvette.
Yeah.
And I want to point out the only difference between her and the other conspirators is she's the only one that showed up on time. Everybody else showed up late and then was like weirdly shoved into a side room where somebody could sneak up behind him and murder him. Yeah. Even like the first Mr. Body, the sort of fake Mr. Body, he shows up late.
He does.
So knowing who I am, I get an invitation. I show up on time, therefore I automatically get final boy status. So if you think you showed up on time, you can put yourself in the same category as Yvette.
Yes. You guys ready for my ending?
Let's
How
hear
I would
it.
achieve final girl status?
I want to know.
So, little do all of them know this whole time, I'm a KGB sleeper agent. Communism is not a red herring.
Not in this ending.
My chosen leader, Joseph Stalin, from the time I was a little child, supplanted me in the United States. I then, through my abilities of being able to get secrets, I become a French maid. I fake being a French maid. And
he went through the Red Room, same as Black Widow.
Indeed.
He got the same training as Natasha Romanoff.
Indeed. In fact, I become her instructor by the end, but we'll say that for last. I end up gathering all these secrets, being an informant, thinking that I'm working for them, but the whole time I'm working for the motherland. So, much to the point that you make, I show up on time. Given my training, I scope out the place. I see what's what. I find the information. I take pictures, or at least copies of it, or I just take the whole thing if I can't take a copy of it. Once I hear that there's a murder, I sneak out the back, and knowing that both German Shepherds and Dobermans react to an alpha, and knowing that I know German, given my ability to know international languages, I subdue the dogs. I run off into the night, and then I find myself in a helicopter going back to the motherland with many of the filthy Americans' dirty little secrets, and the Soviet Union never falls. World domination.
Not only are you the final girl, but the Soviet Union is the final girl in this history.
We are the final civilization.
Both Lanson and I, our endings are, we are the final girl, but at what cost?
To serve the motherland.
The cost of innocence, I guess.
The cost. I mean, hey, you can't make an omelet without breaking a couple eggs, right?
Or in my case, you can't
Preach.
you can't make an omelet without smashing a few skulls.
You can't let communism win without letting a bunch of capitalist pigs kill themselves.
You can't make an omelet without squeezing all the juice out of Professor Plum. Ring it out.
Get that plum juice. But yeah, that would be my totally realistic, attainable way that I would make it to the end.
Average Joe, just like
Average
anybody could do that.
Joseph.
Average Joseph.
Alfred Joseph Stalin. It's pretty out there, but hey, I mean, we got alternate endings to this movie. Let's have some alternate endings to how we get out.
That's
great.
the 5th alternate ending.
Yeah.
His sleeper agent for KGB.
The phone call's for me. It's from Moscow.
Who is this? J. Edgar Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover.
Hey, J. Edgar Hoover. I am with FBI, Pepsi Cola, Tom Cruise, American Fun Times. Let me talk to other capitalists. Yeah, he seems like a great guy. Let's give him the phone.
I understand your wife was socialist.
So anyway, that was our iterations of the endings.
Surprisingly,
for us.
we all live in a movie where, like, yeah, most of the kills are unavoidable.
Yeah, we agreed that like every death is hard to avoid, and then we're like, but we'd
All
live.
of us, yeah, we could do it.
We could be fine. We'd be fine. Yeah, no.
It's just feeling the vibe.
It's
That's
just
all it's about.
I feel like it's totally straight up when you're like a little kid and you're playing with all of your friends and are like, well, I killed your guy, but it's like, no, but he turned into a dinosaur robot, so he didn't die. Just kind of that whole, I flipped it around, made it totally unrealistic, but it's in your face now.
I think my version of events is funny in that I go from a cartoonish, unrealistic movie to suddenly the most real, like a movie based in realism, disturbingly so.
Not the way you'd think or want.
Yeah.
But now, you know what? It's the Halloween special, and it's a special treat for all of us. We all live through the movie.
That's great.
We all get Final
We
Girl
all live
status.
to see another Halloween.
That's right. That is right.
This
And
movie
it's
didn't-
Halloween 2, The Return of Michael Myers.
Didn't take place on Halloween. I guess
Yeah.
it could have. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Never say.
It's up to the
Um,
interpretation.
It said, when I read the year, it actually
Never
said the
mind.
exact date. Hold on.
It's not up to interpretation.
It is actually a specific date. Let me see. It's
Remember the 4th of November. Gunpowder treason.
okay. The movie takes place on June 9th, 1954.
So in the summer.
It's a summer movie.
A summer blockbuster.
Summer blockbuster.
If everybody had an ocean. California.
We're all committing murder.
Murder USA. Inside, outside with my knife. Anyway.
Upside down side with a pipe. Come on, Adam.
I have to rhyme.
Spit a verse.
I got nothing.
It's
Good for
okay.
you guys. I'm on the throne. I'm David Bowie on the throne, and I
Hey,
approve.
you know what? Thank you. I appreciate that.
You remind me of the Babe.
What babe?
What?
The Babe with the power.
What power?
The power of voodoo.
Hoodoo?
You do.
Remind me of the babe. Have you seen Labyrinth?
No, I haven't.
Oh, bro.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Dude, that's that guy's cousin.
I'm just trying to yes and over here. I don't know.
Okay, we'll have to watch that movie sometime so you can understand.
For the
that.
Not for the podcast.
Could we
for
survive?
life. For your
Can you survive this movie? Not if you're an infant.
But even then, I guess you just gotta have a good sister who makes friends with a bunch of weird Muppets.
Smell bad. Smell bad.
That's not even a guy in a suit.
I'm just a worm.
Dirty little mud grub. Yeah, so this is usually the part where we put in for some plugs, give some shout outs to some things. Is there anything we'd like to shout out at this time?
I think, what I always do is shout out this podcast. Keep
Yeah.
watching. Got some exciting. The next movie is. What is the next movie? Because we.
That's a great
The next movie
question.
is.
Ghostbusters.
And that is going to be a fun movie to do.
I've fully forgotten.
That's all good.
Because we just
Yeah, I
did
can't remember
Blair
either.
Witch, but then we actually didn't do Blair Witch.
We are going to master our craft in Blair Witch. We're gonna bring
It's
it.
gonna be next level, boys. I'll pull it up and I'll see what movie's next.
Cool.
Cool.
But yeah, to everybody that's we've launched on YouTube and on Spotify.
YouTube videos. Watch the YouTube videos that come out too.
Yeah, on Google
Status
Play.
updates.
Yeah, so thank you to everybody that's been tuning in on that and giving that a like, and yeah, just we appreciate you guys. Keep watching. This is a lot of fun for us, and it's
Yeah.
something we're really happy to be able to share with you guys. So yeah, just keep coming.
Yeah, a big thank you to everybody who listened. Like, this is the first episode we've recorded since the podcast launched.
Yeah.
So just a huge thank you to everybody who listened to that first weekend it was out. Thank you so much. If you reached out, if you let us know your thoughts, if you told us what you liked, gave us some thoughts. My friend Drew Anderson was somebody who reached out very quickly and just was so incredibly nice and was really excited about just the premise of the podcast. And so just like special shout out to that guy. Yeah, and then in terms of shout outs, plugs, geez. Well, since this is the first time we're talking about it since the podcast is launched.
Since it's lynched.
Since this is the first time.
It's been lynched.
No, Adam, no.
Since it's been David lynched. No, so this is the first episode we've recorded since the podcast launched. So I'm going to say directly right now, several people to thank. Rachel Robison for doing the wonderful music for our podcast.
Fantastic.
Really, really killed it. It's so spooky and it's so fun. Shane Alvey for doing the intro and outro recordings. He's a voice actor, friend of ours, and he recorded those for us. And it's really fun to have his voice start and end the episodes.
For sure.
And then artist Trinity Rodriguez did our art for our YouTube videos. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you're looking at her art. And she drew each of us as like horror icons, which is so cool.
Really cool. Loved it.
I like lost my mind when I saw it. It was so much fun.
She's the best.
Shout out to those three. In terms of things to plug, obviously you can email us. You can email us at underqualifiedidiots@gmail.com. You can also look at facebook.com/underqualifiedidiots for updates about this show. Underqualified Idiocracy on Instagram. They'll post updates about the show there. Our YouTube page, Underqualified Idiocracy Media. You know, if you're watching it here, obviously you found it. Me personally, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Luke Haueter. That's where I post my thoughts about various things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that'll do it for me, man.
I like it. Well, as always, thank you guys. We appreciate you. Have a happy Halloween. Hope everybody stays safe, and we'll catch you next time.
This has been an Underqualified Idiocracy media production, produced by Lanson Lappin, Adam Bone, and Luke Haueter. Theme music for the episode was written by Rachel Robison. You can hear more of Rachel's music at rachelrobinsonmusic.com. You can also find her on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching at Robel Racheson. Artwork for the YouTube version of this podcast was created by Trinity Rodriguez. You can follow her on Twitter by searching at InstrinBaby to see more of her work. This podcast was recorded in Underqualified Studios and edited by Luke Haueter, with special thanks to Mike Fuchs for providing audio assistance. The illustrious voice acting providing the intro and outro of this episode is Shane Alvey of the Paradox Files voice acting. You can explore more of his work on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching at The Paradox Files.
Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Final Boy Status. If you want to listen to the podcast version, which is longer than the version you find here on YouTube, you can find all the different streaming services we're available on at anchor.fm/finalboystatus. If you are insatiable and you just need that content, baby, you can go to patreon.com/Luke Haueter. That's LUKEHAUETER. We do extended and uncut versions of certain episodes, and they will be uploaded to the Patreon page if you just want to keep that Final Boy Status rolling. Finally, if you like what we're doing, click over here to watch even more Final Boy Status content. Click over here to subscribe.